Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. We're glad you're here. Subscribe to this channel. We appreciate that. And if you like this video, hit that like button.
Yep, and check out the podcast below in the description. Subscribe to it and share it with your amigos.
The ham keys to the Niners-Cowboy game. You want to start? Or do you want me to start?
You go ahead. I know you're fired up on something.
So I think the number one key is when you close your eyes and you think about some of the great moments in playoff football, they normally involve, close them. Close your eye, the great first playoff moment that comes to mind.
Low Neal.
Low Neal. Okay. Didn't expect you to say that. But actually that works for this point. I think when you think about some of the greatest, if you go back and watched some of the greatest moments in playoff history, I think a lot of times they'll involve something very specific happening. Not all the time.
Music City Miracle?
Music City Miracle actually involved this. A passer under pressure. So Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl, just getting the throw off before Nick Bosa gets there, right? Eli Manning pulling away from pressure to throw the ball to David Tyree. I think the number one key in this game is, do the Niners get to Dak enough? I think they're going to get to him. I think they're going to be able to run the football offensively, the 49ers. So one of two things then happens. Either Dallas gets the lead first or the Niners get the lead first. If the Niners get the lead first, then they try to run the ball. There's not that many possessions. And now Dak's got to throw. And the Cowboys do have the firepower to make up a deficit. Or the Cowboys get the lead early, maybe not quite 17 like the Rams, early in the Rams game. What did you think? How are they ever going to start up these guys? The Niners get the Cowboys get the lead early. And the same thing has to happen. They probably still throw a little bit, and you got to get to Dak to stop them so that you can then play catch up, which, even though the Niners did it last week, is not their forte, you would say, based on the style of their offense. And so I think there's going to be moments just like the Rams game where they get to Dak. There's going to be moments just like the Rams game where they almost get to Dak. And then the question is, on those plays, what happens? Stafford made some really good throws when it looked like he was about to get hit. And I think those are going to be the number one moments in these games. They're going to get to Dak. Do they get to Dak Prescott enough? Or does Dak have time? Because I think if Dak has time, it could get a little bit hairy with CD and Amari and Schultz. And that's not the ideal place to be. So I think the Niners will be able to create pressure. Will they be able to create enough pressure? The 49ers this year played 17 games like everybody else. In those 17 games, they held the opposing quarterback under his season average for passing yards 14 times. The 3 times it didn't happen was Goff, Burrow, and then the second Cardinal game with Colt McCoy. But Colt McCoy actually exceeded Kyler Murray's average passing yards in that game. So we'll call that an over. But basically, the Niners, if you set the over-under at that quarterback's season average, the Niners were 14-3 on the under for the opposing quarterback's yardage. Dak's average is 278, which is top 10 in the NFL. When he hit the over, they were 5-2. When he hit the under, they were 6-3. So not a lot there. But when he hit the over, he was 22 touchdowns, 3 picks. When he hit the under, in more games, he was less touchdowns and more than twice as many interceptions, 15 touchdowns and 7 picks. So to me, that's my number one key.
I think one thing that helps the Niners with Dak is he's not young Dak Prescott anymore. He's really, his style is like a Matt Stafford. He's a pocket quarterback. He didn't even run on the season for over 150 yards. A lot of that probably, when you get your ankle shattered, you're never going to be quite as spry as you once were. But he is not, he's an athletic guy still. Like, he can use his legs behind the line of scrimmage. But, some of the quarterbacks that have given the 49ers trouble, we've talked a lot of, obviously Kyler and Russell are the guys that are really fast behind the line of scrimmage. This guy really is just, I don't want to call him a sitting duck, but to me, his game reminds me a lot of Matt Stafford in terms of movement. Matt has the better arm, but he just kind of moves up and down the pocket. When I watch him play, I don't see a guy who's taking off, which to me is a positive. We've always said the Niners do really well with quarterbacks who aren't going to move. I think that's why they had some success against Stafford. Ultimately, Stafford at this age does not want to run around, right? He was running to throw. And he's not probably as quick as he was 5-6 years ago. Well, Dak coming off the injury is just not that quick. And the 49ers, obviously Bosa and Armstead, but some of their other just role players that they rotate in and out just play really fast. So you rewatch that Niners second half, Stafford looked like he got overwhelmed. Now this Cowboy offensive line is better than the Rams offensive line, even though someone forwarded me that PFF had the Rams rated as the best pass protecting offensive line in the league. I'm like, that can't be true. Like I'm just they're not that, like they're just, I don't know. I don't believe that. Maybe through their formula, but I've just watched them enough that I don't think they're like 5 Anthony Munoz on the group. But to me, my key is, and I think the Niners, when they go and when they really go, is when their horses take over on offense. And when you watch the Cowboys play, because Zeke is now kind of a shell of himself, their identity is soft. And when I say soft, like they're a passing offense. If they were a college team, they would be like, I'm trying to even think of the squad. They'd be like, they're not quite Washington State, but they are throwing the ball a lot because their best players are outside and they're paying their quarterback $40 million. They throw the football. Well, the 49ers, their best player is a wide receiver who also could play running back, and they get him the ball in all different manners. Kittle could dominate in the run game as a blocker with Juszczyk. And then Ayuk has really just come on. He just makes huge plays for them. And even Jennings last week, who that might have been the best game it was the best game of his life so far. I can't expect him to do that again, but you saw he's a physical player. All their guys they're guys with the ball in their hands, and same with Elijah Mitchell, are physical. And they used to have this with Zeke. There is an element of you can't fucking do anything when Zeke would truck you. It's like, oh, how are we going to tackle this guy? And to me, Kittle, Debo, Elijah Mitchell, those guys play like that. And to me, that's where the team gets their momentum from. Trent's back. I mean, there's a physical element. And even Micah Parsons, I actually think he's just being true. Like, they play bully ball. They want to shove you around. And I think part of the reason Mike is saying that, most teams don't play like that in the NFL. Like, how many teams in the NFL, besides like Belichick in that Monday night game, that had 10 straight runs this year? I bet it's less than 5. 10 straight runs. No to run out the clock or something at the end of the game too, right?
How about the Ravens, maybe?
Maybe, but I feel like when Lamar, they throw the ball a decent amount.
Yeah.
To me, it's just those guys just physically dominating. Because the defense, like you said, the defense has been pretty consistent. No chance. I bet Andy didn't have 5 straight runs all season. 5. So it's just, now, the one thing I wonder, and this is where being a game planner, you can really take advantage. So Kyle mentioned, those guys get upfield and they fly around, they're pass rushers. Well, what neutralizes a good crazy pass rush getting up the field? A good screen?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe a draw. You can do things to kind of counter them. And I would say one of Kyle's greatest strengths, when his game plan immediately works, is it puts you on your heels right away. And all of a sudden it's like, you're just doing what we're doing. Micah Parsons is like, I always do this. But right now they're like throwing it right behind me. And if Kyle's doing that right away, we've seen the Niners win from leading and win from behind. Like the Cowboys, if the Niners can flip the script last week and somehow get like a 10-0 lead, do they start looking at each other? Like, they haven't been in this position. They've lived somewhat of a
when
charmed season.
When they go up 17-0.
Well, if the Niners went up 17, they would win the game.
Well, I'm just saying when they've done it, that ends up looking like, what was it, the Packer Thursday night game or the Monday night game, whatever that game was, when Bosa sacked, what do you get, a safety on the first series?
Oh, you're saying the Niners kill people.
When the Niners get up 17-0, they kill people.
Yeah, because they just keep running the ball out.
Where they've gotten in trouble this. Oh, sorry.
My thing though is if you can get a lead on the Cowboys, more than just your typical first drive 7-0 whatever. We've seen. I don't put that much stock into a first drive because you get the game plan. But if you can get a multi-score lead, the team that hasn't been there, and that is the Cowboys. When's the last time Dak's been in the playoffs? Amari's never been in the playoffs with his team. Obviously, CD's second year hasn't been in the playoffs. Diggs hasn't been in the playoffs. Parsons, obviously a rookie. How do they handle it? They have a lot of unknown. It's not like their coach has been there that long. That's the one thing. Kyle, these are all his guys. They're all just in the bunker together. They've some of them, like Kittle and Juszczyk, have been here the whole time. Jimmy been here forever. Trent's new, but he's a Kyle guy. Elijah Mitchell just belongs. Bosa just belonged immediately now, but he's been in the trenches in big games and the rough times. It's how do the Cowboys respond? To me, it's all about their core guys hitting them in the mouth immediately, and just see if they can jab back.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Cowboys have the talent to, but the one thing with the playoffs, sometimes like mentally, if you get a little off your equilibrium, it can throw you off because there's not like, well, we got another month. We're 2 games up on the Eagles. There's none of that. None of that shit matters anymore.
And
right?
the Niners have been playing that type of game.
The Cowboys. I was in the car yesterday, listening to Steve Young. Him and Tolbert were bullshitting, and the big reason that they played those guys in the second half is like they wanted to get their mojo for the playoffs because their offense had been so shitty. So they left their guys in against the backups. The Eagles have been planning for do you know what their defensive staff did week 18? They started studying Tom Brady and getting the game plan because it was kind of clear that they probably thought they were going to play. They just assumed the Bucs would win. They spent like half the staff did the Rams, half the staff did the Bucs. They didn't waste a second on the Cowboys. It didn't matter because if they did have to play the Cowboys, they would have been ready. They've already game planned for them several, over the years.
Yeah.
They have so much tape, cross-divisional tape.
Wow.
And the Cowboys, like, there's a reason Dak threw 5 touchdowns in that game because it mattered to them to get their shit back. But does that even matter? You're playing Haberman and MIDDLEKAUFF in the backfield.
No, it doesn't.
We're going to find out if it does translate at all because their offense had been bad. Like, you watch that Cardinal game, Dak looked weird.
Well,
and
John, they weren't great
weird.
a few weeks ago against the Giants either.
No, they haven't been
I watched
good in a
that
while.
game today.
His passes he just feels off on some throws. And part of it, the difference between him and Stafford is the arm strength is noticeable. He does not have some hose.
No.
He's I don't want to say Alex Smith, but he's much closer to Alex Smith than anyone wants to admit with his arm. For being he's a big strapping athlete, right? He's thicker than Alex, but he does not throw this just like whoop. Mm-hmm. Jimmy's arm's better.
Yep. I think where the Niners have gotten themselves into trouble at times this year, right? You think about the Bears game. You think about the Seahawks game in Seattle. You think about the Texans game, which thankfully for them, they were playing the Texans, is when they control a game but don't convert early. Like that will fail them this week against Dallas if they quote unquote control a game but don't convert early.
Yeah.
The Niners are the number one. I mentioned this the other day. The Niners are the number one scoring offense in the red zone in terms of touchdown percent. Like to me, touchdown percentage matters a lot, not
Agreed.
Scoring percentage. I want touchdowns in the baby zone, right? As we call it on this show, the baby zone.
Hell yeah.
Niners are number one in red zone touchdown percentage. 67% of their red zone trips end in touchdowns. Dallas is number 6. 63% of their red zone trips end in touchdowns. There's a difference though. Dallas gets to the red zone 4 times a game. The Niners get to the red zone 3 times a game. So in the end, Dallas actually scores more red zone touchdowns than the 49ers do. Right?
Amari's a good red zone receiver. Obviously,
Schultz is a good red zone.
CD was built in a lab for the red zone, right?
They got tight ends in the red zone, right? And we saw tight ends in the red zone last week against the Niners in the Rams game.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to – I think they'll be able to move. They got to get touchdowns. Here's the other thing. The field goal kicking situation for Dallas is still weird. And so you can't miss – a made extra point might be the difference in this game. You making one, them missing one.
Well, we'll take that, especially on the money line.
Yeah, I know. No doubt. So, anyway. Woo! Woo!
Well, it's cool. We would talk about this game anyway, but I think it's clearly I think the Monday night game could play out if both teams play well, but I think on paper this is the best game of the weekend.